Welcome students, I am Dr.N.Nazini. I teach Film Studies and Media Culture Society in the Department of Visual Communication here at Satyabama Institute of Science and Technology. I welcome you to this video lecture on basic news scripts for television. Television has become an integral part of our lives these days as most of us depend on it for our daily dose of entertainment, news, and information. So, TV programs and TV news tend to influence our views and impact on society. So, writing for TV generally means writing scripts for news bulletin, features, and documentaries, as other formats such as interview, panel discussions are required to be scripted. So, you must now understand the main difference in writing news for television and other mass media. In TV news, some extra qualities will give it a distinct flavor to suit the medium. I will explain some basic concepts and terms which are commonly used in television, and it is very important for TV professional to be familiar with. So let us begin by discussing some concepts and terminologies. First terminology is talking heads. The most skeletal news story is a reader or a liner. So this is a story read on camera by one of the newscaster with no visuals appearing on the screen. True stories not supported by visuals usually have no place in television medium. Such a story could have been written for radio. The only difference in that on television, you see the face of the newscaster. So, still, this story may find its way into the news bulletin because there are occasions when no visuals are available, especially on out of tone stories, or in case of that story that broke late, make it impossible to get relevant footage on the air. Also, some complex stories may be better understood without added distraction of visuals.
The beginnings of a stroke captured on live TV. 2 News Oklahoma anchor Julie Chin suffered a medical emergency on air when she suddenly became confused and stumbled over her words.
The next terminology is super. Supers two also important element or to every story with video in it. Supers are names or other bits of information superimposed on the TV screen. Also we called as IDs. They identify or explain a person, thing, place or a picture. For instance, they are used to identify the newscasters by supering their names on their images.
One girl has tripped. It is not. She has not fallen into the pit. She has just tripped in the indentation, the water. She has wrongly stepped in the indentation because there is an ups and downs in the road level. She has just tripped.
The next terminology is voiceover. A visual is maybe a photograph, chart, or a map or a graph. It is used to illustrate a story, identify a place, or simply a complex economic news item, say with the use of a graph. So the narration continues over the visuals. Apart from the static visuals like graphics, illustrations, etc., voiceover is also carried on the video footage. For example, a plane crash on a mountain summit or a riot hit areas, etc. Shortly after the newscaster begins a story on camera, video coverage appears on the screen while the newscaster continues to read.
Now, in Tanzania, a plane with 49 passengers on board has crash-landed in Lake Victoria. The precision air flight from Dar es Salaam was attempting to land at Bukoba Airport, which is in the northwest of Tanzania. 23 passengers have been rescued so far.
The next terminology is soundbite. Apart from the reader's anchored description of the news story and the narration of the reporter, news stories also usually contain a brief comment from an expert or a witness or any other person relevant to the event. A soundbite or a cold bite, it is a very short piece of a speech selected from the longer speech or an interview with a person who is knowledgeable about the story. The newscaster begins on the camera and reads up to the certain point in the script, and then the expert interviewed on the subject appears on the videotape, making a comment related to that story.
What does this all mean? Let's go right across to Meher Pandey, who has all the details. What is the forecast for monsoon 2022 that you have made?
Yeah, for the monsoon 2022 for a country as a whole is this year is to be a normal. It may be normal, and also it is a quantitatively, if you want to talk about it, is about 99% plus or minus model error of about 5%.
So at the end of the soundbite, the anchor person reappears to tag the story before moving on to another news item. So coming to the another terminology is paradubbing. Paradubbing is a most familiar to the audience as means of translating the foreign language video news content footage into an audience language. When a foreign language is dubbed, the translation of the original dialogue is carefully matched to the person's talk in the visual screen and superimpose the speaker's content in the subtitle in a paragraph according to the audience language. If it is in the regional, then it will be a regional language. If it is in the national, then it will be a national language or else in a universal language, English.
I came here, wasn't feeling so well. I feel much better now. We're working hard to get me all the way back. I have to be back because we still have to make America great again. We've done an awfully good job of that.
Coming to the next terminology, stand-up. It is a story assembled by the staff correspondent or a reporter. Like a soundbite, in the story too, the newscaster begins on camera and reads up to a certain point, then introduces the reporter. The latter then speaks from the location. So these types of stories are considered to be the backbone of a newscast, and reporters prefer to read the stand-up while looking straight into the camera.
A possible cyclone that could develop early next week over the Bay of Bengal. Saurabh joining us with the latest details on that as we see that satellite picture. Saurabh, what's being anticipated?
Well, as of now, the weather department is not very sure about how the intensity is going to be and what the trajectory of this cyclone, if it develops into a cyclone.
Next terminology is about package. The word package, the treatment, is the same as case of stand-up, except the story may consist of an interview with the expert eyewitness apart from the reporter's footage. So it is a soundbite plus stand-up. So the newscaster begins the news item with the brief mention of the highlights of the story and follow it by the introduce of the reporter on location. Then the reporter states the main points of the news and give details in a concise style. The report may be combined with the interview's person in the news. So these comments not only fill the gaps in the report but also lends an air of credibility to the reporter's inferences.
Technology editor Zoe Kleinman reports. Phones, phones, phones. They're such a constant in most people's lives now. It's difficult to imagine being without them. Better 5G.
Here in Glasgow, people really like their 5G. According to Uswitch, across the country, about 1/3 of us now have a 5G enabled phone.
Most places are 4G, and then the odd places you get 5G, but not very much. When it works well, it's good. When it doesn't, it doesn't.
Yeah, but it doesn't work at all.
This centre at the University of Surrey started working on 5G 10 years ago. This is the team's message to people frustrated with 5G.
Just be patient, because there are very interesting applications is coming up. They'll all gradually become 5G compliant.
Although 5G providers don't charge extra money for the service, it can eat up your data at a much faster rate each month. While the telecoms companies are betting on the billions they've ploughed into 5G paying off, they won't be relying on their sales this Christmas to bring it all home just yet.
In our next lecture, we would begin the new topics of these different aspects in media gradually. So thank you, viewers.